everyone, and welcome to our 29th Global Public Seminar in Comparative and International Education. My name is Maia Changseliani. I'm Associate Professor of Comparative and International Education at Oxford. These seminars are jointly organized by the Department of Education and St. Edmund Hall at the University of Oxford. Before I introduce our speaker, let me attend to a few administrative points. This webinar is recorded and will be posted online in due course. In a few moments, I will post in the chat a link to the departmental YouTube page where you can listen to this webinar as well as our previous webinars. Now, as we start our presentation, please keep yourself muted unless I have invited you to speak. If you would like to speak, to ask a question or to share your comment, please use the chat function throughout the webinar. Write out your question or your comment that you wish to ask, or at least put a note that you want to speak. At the end of the presentation, if your question is selected, you'll be invited to ask it yourself directly. When I invite you to ask your question, please unmute yourself, switch on your video, and state your name and where you are from. Okay, so let me now introduce our today's speaker, Professor Akiyoshi Yonezawa. Akiyoshi Yonezawa is Professor and Vice Director of the International Strategy Office and Special Advisor to the President at Tohoku University in Japan. With a background in sociology, his research focuses on comparative higher education policy. He's interested in world-class universities, in internationalization of higher education, and public-private relationships in higher education. He has developed his expertise in higher education policy and management through work at Nagoya University, at the OECD, and at the University of Tokyo. At Tohoku University, where Akiyoshi Yonezawa is currently based, he has served in various roles, including as Director for the Office of Institutional Research. Today's talk is titled Internationalizing Education Research, Bridging National and Global Perspectives in Japan's Education and Comparative Education Research. I'm delighted to have Professor Akiyoshi Yonezawa with us today, and I will pass over to him now.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Maya, and this is great honor that I can talk with you. And also this is really fascinating that because we met, I met Professor Maya in Tashkent, Uzbekistan last year. In one seminar, and so we had a very good discussion about how the different countries and different the regions has sometimes same challenges and also the kind of some variation of the challenges in a quite different national context. And today, so let me share my screen first, and then I will start my presentation. But today, okay. So let me just make sure that so it is now working as.
Yes, it is perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So many of you are actually connected to the education research community in Oxford, UK, and if you are studying in Oxford, maybe it is kind of the daily life that you will talk and discuss and write and read in English, and then the very kind of your community is a very cosmopolitan, means that what I heard is that maybe at least around half of the your researchers or the teaching staff are non-English, or the coming from outside, and also maybe the students are more, especially the graduate school in the field of education, that most of the students are coming outside of the UK, and this is quite common to have, or the kind of the take for granted that everything has to be published in English, and then you are trained as within the English-based research perspective, and this is already highly international and cosmopolitan. But you could imagine that it is not true outside of the English-speaking world. Education system itself is very, very national and local oriented. In order because that it is the kind of the education is very based on the important tool for the developing the civil society with based on the kind of national language and culture. So especially such the country with a very long tradition of the modernization like Japan, we are still relying heavily on our own national language and civilization in order to sustain and develop our community. So naturally that the education research is also highly linked with this kind of national context. And then at the same time, we are also facing with the kind of the globalization, and we are now trying to bridge our national research education research community to the international community. So my role should be that try to give you much more broader the context about how the education research is ongoing in the non-English speaking world, and then what will happen or how to make kind of much more fruitful the exchange and also collaboration in order to enrich the global level the education research. That is what I want to discuss today with you. And this is only the case of the Japan, and I'm really looking forward to any kinds of comments from you that to show I suppose that of course some of you are coming from UK, but some of you are coming from other countries, so try to give some kind of the input later on the discussion session. So why this is very, very important. So let me give some very small chart on this. This is the number of the share of the student with the different the measures in at the undergraduate level or the first degree level. And then you could see that the Japan and the Korea is a country that has a relatively large share of the humanities and social science measures, and we also have relatively large English measures compared with the UK. And the UK is also the country that has a very strong large share of the humanities and social sciences, and the education is relatively small, but what we discuss in Japan is that we want to have more the STEM measures as a national level. So there is a kind of big pressure, especially from the industry, that we are, for example, the STEM field, the students are still measure students are relatively smaller compared with Korea, and so this is the very big pressure that we are try to claim that we are based on the country based on science and technology, so that we want to have more kind of the science major students. And the Korea and Japan are facing with the very big pressure of the demographic change or the decrease of the young people. So this means that if we wanna provide more the science technology field, the program means that we need to decrease the number of the students on the humanities and social sciences. And then maybe you can easily understand that this will give some big challenges for the early career researchers in the field of the social science and the humanities, that their job prospect in the university community will become smaller. So this is a really, really big issue we are facing with. And then the one of the reason is that it is relatively difficult for us to justify why do we need humanities social science, and maybe we can say it as an education, because we are invisible in the ranking. So this is the subject based ranking of the in the field of education, and the Times education is mainly based on two components. One is that the research infrastructure means that the kind of the funding or the quality of the like a student-teacher ratio. And also the very big part is based on the academic reputation, means that the reputation among the researchers. And then you could see that of course University of Oxford is really top, and but the other East Asian top universities, I simply show the top university in each country, but and the Japan is exception. We have a number one, number two. I mean Tokyo and Kyoto, but the Japan and the other East Asian countries are relatively good because that if you have a kind of exchange between the academics, we know some kind of the face-to-face discussion, and then we can know that this university is very good. Like, and then fortunately still that Tokyo University and Kyoto University has some reputation on this, but still there is already some biases that of course the University of Hong Kong and Nanyang Technical University, this means that National Institute of Education has the higher the reputation because it is based on it's a program in English. And then the student marketing is more, you could indicate from the QS ranking. And then this is relatively similar, but this is not that so impressive in case of the University of Tokyo and Tsinghua University and many other Chinese university in mainland China. And Taiwan is still very good, and this is really good. And then the Shanghai ranking is quite different types of the indicator that is purely based on the publication, and also the size matters. So that's the reason why that the Oxford University unfortunately is not so visible compared with other indicator, because that maybe I suppose that the School of Education is very small as a size in Oxford, at least compared with for example the UCL. But you could see that actually the University of Tokyo is not ranked there completely, and then the Kyoto University and the Tsinghua University, the numbers outside of the top 300. So this is obviously that these countries are much more focusing on the publication in their own language than the publication in English as a system. So then you can see that there is a very big gap, and also the difference of the culture, the tradition of the system in kind of the very strong national-oriented countries like China and Japan, and also under the English-based systems. Okay, so my presentation is based on the purpose is to present a vision and internationalizing education research to bridge national global perspective in education and comparative education research, using the case of the Japan's education research communities. So first, I will talk about the national perspective, and this is actually based on my report, the report I wrote for the British Academy of the Social Sciences, which is by the invitation of at that time the president Roger Goodman, who is a professor of the Nissan Institute of the Japanese Studies in University of Oxford. And that topic was at that time, about 7 years ago, the UK education research community faced with the very big pressure or the dilemma of you are already globalized. So because of that, you have to publish a lot in the international journal. But at the same time, it will give some the weakness in the linkage with the local the social needs of the education system. So then they want to have some kind of comparative case like Japan. Okay. And then secondly, that I will talk about the global and international perspective. This is based on our research project with the senior colleagues of the education research community in various fields like the sociology, history, the economics, and everything. And we made a kind of interview to the lots of the senior people like president of or the people who are responsible for the international affairs and international exchange in the major education research associations in the variety of field in Japan. And also that we need a kind of we also did a kind of workshop to think about how to publish in English effectively with the colleagues of the early career researchers in the education field. And some of those colleagues who collaborated with us or participated with us is now participating today. And then finally, I will talk about the other the project related project that we had organized one symposium in the Japanese Society of the Comparative Education. So this is a community. I believe that today's community is much more comparative education, comparative international education. So the comparative education has a quite specific, unique role within the education research community because even it is in a national association, by nature, this is highly international linked because we have an expert of for example, the Finnish education in Japan. And this means as a Japanese that we go to the fieldwork to the Finland or the Vietnam, and then they talk in their own local people, and then they try to understand. And these are the things we are trying to do. And by doing so that those people are also the big agent of introduce the Japanese education to the other communities. Okay. So then let me go briefly about the national perspective because it is the very the details, so that I don't go there, but much more focus on in providing the information as a background of the education research in Japan. So we have the relatively long history of the education training, training system of the education researchers in Japan. Means that absolute majority of the education researchers in Japan is trained within our own national system. So because we have a relatively large graduate school of education, including doctoral program in various leading universities. And there are two different types of the graduate school or the universities. One is the university graduate school with the teacher training function. The Hiroshima University is a very good example that this is originally was the kind of the higher level normal university, normal school. So this means that the teacher training, this started as a teacher training function, and then now it is the comprehensive university, including medical and engineering program. And there, you could easily imagine that the graduate school of education means that there are lots of departments such as the science education or the mathematics education, then the music education. So then they are doing the educational research, but much more subject based. And also there is a wide variety of the disciplines from the philosophy to the engineering to support to the education research itself. And we have a really specific, unique history that the imperial universities or the former imperial university we call like Tokyo University, Kyoto University, or Osaka, and Kyushu, Tohoku, those universities do not have a teacher training function because the education research was developed after World War II by the kind of guidance of the U.S. Under the U.S. or the alliance occupation that we want to have some expert of it who knows education very well based on the kind of research of the education. So this is also the kind of the platform to make a kind of relatively kind of research-oriented researchers. So that we, for example, myself is the graduate, one of the alumni of the Tokyo University Graduate School of Education. And then I was trained as a sociologist of education. So the social education in Japan is in Tokyo University is more kind of social science oriented rather than the pedagogical oriented. So this is the kind of the things. And then we have the Tokyo University has a lot of different types of such a kind of the experts who are linked with their own mother or the parents, the disciplines such as the psychology, clinical, the psychology or the health, and also the physical education. It is the physical education, especially like almost engineering. Okay, so then the employment opportunities are mainly teaching positions in teacher training programs at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. And then in addition, there is opportunity for the, for example, National Education Research Institute or the special laws of the higher, especially in the higher education. That, for example, myself is I have a title of the professor, and I also, of course, teach. But my main function is more for the serving as an expert of the international the comparative perspective of the higher education to support the president team to make an international strategy of our university. And then as the trends and growth, interestingly that we had a relatively good time from the end of the 20th century to the beginning of the 2010s. Some kind of increase of the teaching staff in the field of education, probably because of the temporary needs of the replacement of the old generation teachers. But after that, we are facing with a kind of the stagnation, especially in the national university faculty members. And then we expected the kind of future decline, both due to the kind of democratic pressure and also the government pressure to decrease make a kind of budget cut for the humanities and social sciences, and then the more focusing on the social sciences, the science, STEM field, as I already mentioned, especially like the information sciences and etc. And then in these situations, there is a kind of policy orientation affecting the education research direction. And also our major funding is still from the government, but there is an increased influence of the private funding. And for example, we have some the local the companies who are doing the kind of the business in the field of education. One of the companies called Benesse, which is they're providing lots of information and the testing services for preparation for going to the good universities in the end. And the Benesse is the kind of the partner of the Times Higher Education, and then they are providing the Japanese university rankings using the partnership of the Times Higher Education. The recruitment company is the company that provide the information for the matching the university graduates and the companies for the job placement or recruiting purposes. So these companies are actually supporting the education research activities partly for as a services for the kind of civil for their business. Okay, so then the one, let me just give some okay, let me skip here, but here I try to analyze what we did in the Japanese system, but basically our education research was highly linked with our own national interests. For example, the diploma disease, this is the kind of the high competition towards the top university. And this is a kind of historical development. So the point is that our research is mainly highly linked with our own national issues. And within that, many researchers are involved in that. And then some of the kind of very interesting topic for also internationally that is becoming visible for the with the partnership of the international researchers. And then our main challenges of the national education research community is that, first of all, that the meta level reflection is necessary because the education context is highly national, means that becoming relatively close within the national dialogue. And we want to make much more like a higher level, international level comparison. And there is a need for the global integration, so that now we have a lot of pressure, as I mentioned, that to engage in the international research community, partly for the national competition with other fields, and also of course to survive in the global community. And also there is an importance of the evidence-based policies that if we focus on only the national research community, that of course our data is highly limited. And then if we can compare, for example, with India or the other countries, that the data will become much more wider. So that kind of a discussion can be done more in the English-based publication and the research dialogue. So we have very strong the national language and doctoral program. This is good, but we have a limitation of our education research community. So then we try to emphasize the meta-level discussion and also the international, try to incorporate international perspective more. And then as I mentioned, that we made a kind of the global and international perspective, and what we did is as follows. So basically that we have the lots of national education society, but obviously it is much more easier to be recognized in this national system if you are very having the very strong research influence within the Japanese speaking community. And then if you are trained in the kind of English speaking university like British Columbia or wherever, first you have to get into the Japanese community and then get a trust among the people who are trained within the Japanese system. And then we will get a kind of senior position like president of the academic society of education field. So then this system is good for the some people who are only trained within the Japanese system, but sometimes very kind of facing the dilemma for the people who are trained outside of the Japanese system, or if you need to share your time more and energy for the more publication in English, and this means that you will have less time for publishing Japanese. That is a very big dilemma we are facing. The young international people, international education researchers are facing with. And then so that we have a kind of but we are now facing with the kind of challenge of the publication in English, because in this system that we have relatively weak training scheme for publishing in English, or the communication in English in a very deep the serious level. So that is the thing. So that we are trying to develop our support system for this, and that this is the kind of consensus of the university, the leading position, the senior leaders of the academic society in field of education, but they are facing with the difficulty how to transform this system more global, because there is a big size of the national community already, and a very established culture on this. So some of the work is done, for example, the publication in journals, but there are also things we have to do. So that is the things. And then this is relatively different with the other countries, like especially for the South Korea. South Korea, if you go to the top university, absolute majority of the professors got a PhD in the United States and the English-speaking system. So this means that they know that how to teach in English, how to train the next generation researchers in English. and then they have a connection with the professors of the leading researchers in the international research community. And then if you have a very excellent student, they obviously recommend them to study abroad than trained in the national system. So the very big differences of the culture. And then under this condition, we try to analyze what is the best way that we could develop the career within the Japanese-speaking system, but still very international. So that is what we are trying to do. And then for that purposes that we are trying to have a kind of the workshop for making a discussion that what is the best way to write in English. So that this is kind of the workshop for the English academic writing. So that we ask the article researchers to participate in, and then so they have a will of the publics in English, and then we organize arrange some kind of mentors who already publish in English, or the kind of internationally active researchers outside of Japan, and sometimes inside of Japan, and then they try to analyze what is the way to publish on it. And then what we discuss, and then we understand that this will be the kind of the things we need to do. The first, we identify the challenges that most of the young researchers in Japan is now facing with adopting the Japanese studies to fit to the Western-centered academic framework, and then recognizing and addressing the gap between the local and the global academic standards. So suppose that they are 100% living in the Japanese language community. And then if you are not familiar with the English-speaking community, this is the kind of very starting point. And then we need to have a kind of strategy step. So first, that we need to analyze the applicability of the Western framework to the Japanese context. And then probably myself is such a kind of case that I'm working with lots of the international colleagues like Professor Autobach or the Martinson, and then I provide the Japanese cases, right? So then I try to make some kind of the adaptation of the Japanese cases to the Western framework or the global framework. And then we need to we can propose new research framework based on our funding. So this is a kind of the much more creative than, or the much more influential for this. And then in the end, like Keita Takayama and others, maybe it is possible for us to advocate the theories from the Japanese perspective. That is kind of the maybe what we can do more for this. And then in order to that, of course, we need to have much more technical skills that how to publish in English. And this is a very important one. And then we need to are aware that some kind of cultural consideration. And then by doing so, that we need to adjust ourselves, not only for the kind of submissive manner, but much more try to engage anyway, and try to change on this. And then finally, that we need to have the career implication for the English publications. The first at the institutional level, and also the global academic system, that we need to encourage or kind of give the much more advantageous the career perspective to motivate the article researchers to publish in English or engage into the international research community. So these are the kind of strategic approach, and then maybe the conventional strategy is that the direct engagement to the Western academic standards, but this is very high. So one of the way is to find a niche strategy, means that emphasizing unique Japanese phenomena and the perspective. For example, the kind of Japanese company things, or the diploma duties is also such a case. And then we need to have a universal contribution, so that developing the theories and transcend Western-centric views, and then align with the global decolonization and post-colonial studies. So by doing so that we have a kind of importance, for that, so therefore we recognize the importance of the enhancing English academic writing capabilities, and also the need for the systematic support for the recognition within the Japanese academia, and then the strategy for the effective international engagement and contribution. And finally, so what the comparative education is, think about this kind of a discussion. That is the things I'd like to present in the end. So what is interesting is that some kind of observation by the international experts, so-called. So those familiar name could be familiar with you, because they are quite active in the international comparative education field. The Maria Manzon, she's now the professor of the Sophia University, the Jesuit University located in Tokyo, and she originally coming from the Hong Kong research community, and then so she explored the kind of historical development, theoretical basis of the comparative education in Japan, and emphasizing the professional differentiation with the educational research communities as a kind of national research community. The point is that the Japanese high comparative education is very, very strong in the field work at the macro level, like going to the field of the Kenya countryside, and then do a kind of the very, very kind of specific understanding of the Kenyan the culture, Maasai people, and then try to write much more descriptively on this. By doing so that we can have some kind of different view, because we are coming from the kind of the non-English speaking the system. So then we can identify something quite new on this. And so this is one of the challenges we are facing with. And then those people speak and communicate in the local language there, and then the Japanese language and the English language. And this is one of the advantages. And Professor Terry Kim, who is very active in the UK in higher education research, and then she is much more focusing on the mobility of the researcher. So it is very good to go to the area that is outside of your comfort zone. By doing so that you can be creative. That is her main message she gave to us. And Edward Vickers, who is the professor of the Kyushu University, and he's a very, very critic activist of the activist type of the researchers. But his point is that you have to be very, very kind of have a critical view, and by doing so that you can do something new or something influential. Jeremy Lapley, he was a professor of the Kyoto University at that time, and then now he moved to Hong Kong. But he emphasized the need for the Japanese comparative education to engage with global discussions through the unique methodologies and the philosophies, and highlighting the Kyoto school's contribution. They're based on the tradition of the Kyoto University, the humanities and social science itself. So the point is that this is the kind of the very, very complex, and also the trial that, and there is a very, very interesting and rich context that how to adopt ourselves to the English-speaking system or the global research community by taking this kind of the very small one country case. So then I hope that it will enrich your imagination that what is the meaning of the education research in the international age or the global age, and what is the role of the comparative education in this the field. Okay, let me stop here, and then I will want to have more discussion with you. Thank you
so much for this very, very insightful, informative, important presentation about one of the contemporary challenges of educational knowledge production in Japan. I particularly appreciated how you talked about the importance of meta-level reflections and the need for Japanese researchers to both integrate and contribute uniquely to the global educational discourses. And I also really liked how you talked about Japanese educational researchers engaging with and also challenging the prevailing Western-centric educational frameworks. I see that quite a few questions are coming in, so I will stop and invite colleagues, attendees to pose their questions. Can I please start with Shivaji Chinchkar to come in, introduce yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to congratulate Professor for giving so much insights about the Japanese education system. So, my name is Shivaji, and I'm from India. I'm a research scholar at Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I'm studying early childhood education within the country, and I'm trying to understand how policies and programs impact uh, parental decision broadly to sort of take them to the public education system when it's come to early childhood education. Along with that, I'm an educational practitioner, so I do support various governments on implementing their policies and programs on ground, closely working with education system. So, Professor, I have a very fundamental question. While you were presenting, I do understand some of the issues where students face in Japan. My question was related to what are the government, what like local government puts efforts when it's come to making sure that students are aware about the maybe in a national programs and policies or any grants, scholarships, fellowships which are available for students to pursue their higher education within the country or outside country to get those scholarships and programs so that they can get required research knowledge, right? I think that was my broader question. What are the efforts being put within the Japan, when specifically talking about the government? And at the same time, what other efforts are being made at nationally so that the different institutions or universities can collaborate with different national and international universities? I think, as you mentioned, that there is a huge issue with writing in English, right? So, what efforts being made at national level to get collaborate with different universities, specifically from English belt to get collaboration, and maybe student exchange program can happen. Maybe students can go there and study. So just wanted to understand what is happening around this two space. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Actually, I visited India twice in February, invited by the kind of Indian colleagues. So this means that India funded me to go there, and that was really really fascinating. And then my field is higher education, so that I had lots of the discussion with the colleagues in India and also the globally. What is the situation of the researchers, at least in the field of the higher education. And then I understand that many of you, the absolute majority of you are publishing in English and making discussion in English. But of course, if we go to the local community, that there are lots of different languages and also the different cultures, and this is really, really interesting. And the case of Japan, we have a national policy first that supports the Japanese doctoral student and postdoctoral student by the Japan Society with the JSPS, the Japan, this kind of national fund for the scholarship. And then those are also utilized for the kind of studying in other country and as an exchange student. And then we are also now trying to support more such kind of sending our student to other country based on the public fund. And what we have much more like the problem is a soft level the discussion, the point that the graduate school is highly centralized and autonomous among each professors are quite different. The very strong authority and also the power. So some of the professors, if you are lucky enough to find such kind of professor, you are actually sometimes invited, taken by the professors to the kind of international association meeting and also the field work. and then they are supported. And but if you are very, very domestic oriented, you are supported, but much more national context. So that really happens. And the society is also highly decentralized. And this is completely different with for example, the Chinese system. The Chinese system is much more like a centralized, means that the support from the national government and also the support from the academic community is the same. But in case of Japan, very different. So that really gives a kind of disadvantage for us. I hope that I answered to your question.
Yeah, fair enough, Professor. Thank you so much. I understood that it's happening at national level. So I think this was really helpful. Thanks much.
Now let me invite Yusuf Das to ask their question. Yusuf, are you here?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Maya, and thank you very much, Yonezawa Sensei, for this great presentation. I've rarely joined presentations that actually focus on research and the research educational community in Japan, so this is such a great opportunity. Thank you very much again. My question, Sensei, is very simple, and I believe that you might have answered part of it when you answered Mr. Shivaji's question. However, I'm just wondering, considering the nature of Japan's education research community that's usually focused on publication either in Japanese languages or publication in form of books, not like articles, how can we ensure that the new researchers or the early career researchers are equipped with the necessary tools and perspectives to engage in both the international research community and the local educational communities while preserving the Japanese culture and heritage that focuses on a certain style in research and academia? Thank you very much, Yonezawa Sensei.
Thank you very much. So the very, very simple answer is that they are facing difficulty. So that is my, and then you know that. But and the one very, very interesting research we come up with is by the team led by the Professor Yusuke Sakurai of the Hiroshima University. So that he gathered the researchers who are actually active working both the international research community and the Japanese community in the field of education, and then how they are facing with the dilemma of the kind of dual identity. And so I think it is the kind of the typical things in to some degree that more or less that if you are going trained in the international the graduate school outside of your own the country or the country origin, you of course have some the community there, but you will face some kind of the outsider type feeling, right? And then sometimes outside of comfortable zone. And then if you go back there, this is the same, right? So that you are too international, so this means that you are weak in the national linkage. So that is a kind of the dilemma facing this, and this itself is a kind of becoming a very, very interesting topic. But anyway, this will be very, very strong, especially in the field of the human social sciences. And then the education field is such a kind of representative case. So, but I think this itself is a very, very interesting because that the education field includes everything, like sociology, the psychology, and the philosophy and everything, and even engineering. And then these associations are also linked with kind of the parent, the research association, like myself is I'm a sociology of education, so actually I'm not really kind of very active member of the association of research association of sociology, but many do. And then you will have a kind of the linkage with this, and sometimes the size matters that the sociology community has an international exchange with the global sociological community. So there are some areas such as quantitative sociology, so of education. So they are linking to the international world through the sociology community than the education community. So this kind of the system itself is kind of one of the research area we can dig in that. So that is the reason why I try to make this presentation. Is
Thank
that
you.
okay?
Yes, yes, thank you, Sensei.
Thank you. We have another 2 questions here. I also have some questions. So if anyone has a burning question or comment that you want to make before we end at 4 o'clock in 10 minutes, please put it there or express your interest to speak, okay, in the chat. So let me invite Huiji Ate, if you are here, if you wanted to ask your questions. And please briefly introduce yourself as
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yonezawa Sensei, for your presentation, and it's good to see you again. So I'm a graduate student. I'm a master's student at Waseda University, Tokyo, and my research is on higher education and their engagement with sustainability. So currently, I do research on 2 Malaysian universities to examine the rationales and the factors influencing their engagement with sustainability, but also looking at the global governance through the SDGs. So back to the presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one is, can you comment on the hiring practices of academic staff in Japanese universities? Because when I look at my own graduate school, I feel that they have a preference for scholars who come from, or who graduated from universities in the West, so America or England or maybe Australia, rather than the Eastern universities. And how might that affect education research in Japan? And just now, Yonezawa Sensei, you also mentioned like a Japanese framework in research. So I was wondering if you could elaborate more on what that means in comparative education and education research. But also, a lot of Japanese scholars, they do research and fieldwork in other countries as part of the kind of the international development research. And so how can they integrate the Japanese framework and the local perspectives and frameworks in the countries that they are doing research in? That's all.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, and thank you again for your great support and the collaboration in when I attended the meeting in Bangkok. You know, so although both of us live in Japan, but we met and make a discussion in Bangkok more, and that is really kind of symbolize the kind of internationalization of the education research community, including the Japanese one. And so actually we had a kind of the partnership with the UNESCO Bangkok, and then we had a very, very interesting discussion among the Asian colleague, mainly on Australia, also from the UK and also the Australia, US, and that was really fascinating to share our knowledge by the initiative of the partly Japan, but also the UNESCO. And anyway, the point, there are 2 points that I also had a experience to teach in the graduate school, completely taught in English inside Japan, which is the graduate school of international development of the Nagoya University. And then you are studying at the graduate school, at least 50% taught in English, or you can completely graduate without knowing the Japanese if you want. In the Waseda University, the graduate school of the Asia Pacific Studies, right? And then those the international graduate schools are there within the Japanese system, and then this also you can easily identify it in for example, Korea and other the East Asian countries. And there the issue is that within that graduate school we are highly international. So of course we can employ we try to claim to be international, or try to be more international by inviting the researchers, the teaching staff from the outside of the Japanese speaking system. And then there are 2 biases. One is that when you write and teach and communicate in the Japanese speaking world, we have a kind of very big tendency that we have a relatively biased or the limited literature review with in many cases, with the US system, the US literature. And even for the UK literature and the European literature, they are the most of the first teachers taught in English do not know, or they are not familiar. And then the student don't pay attention because the professors don't recommend. So that is a very big bias we have. And then at the same time that we are also, if we internationalize our research community and the teaching, including teaching staff, the world systems are kind of the diversity or the divide are actually brought in to the Japanese education research community. So there's some kind of the domination of the Western perspectives are also coming and in the human relation level. So that is the very big issue we are facing with. But maybe the first reaction I can do is that probably if something like this doesn't happen, that we even do not aware on this. So that is the we need to aware that. So that is one of the first step. But maybe it is also true that we could be more kind of the sensitive and also the intentionally trying to change the system, and then that will be done by the kind of a much more the flat and equalized dialogue among the different types of the academics, and especially for to hear the voice of the early career researchers and the students to change the system. So the obviously that the perspective of the very senior level, the old generations view and the reality of the student you are facing with so different. And so this is the things we are facing with. The early career researchers in Japan has two challenges. One is that we have a relatively underdeveloped training system in publishing English. But at the same time, the compared with our generation, that at least that the researchers in Japan has the much more larger competitors with the neighboring countries like not only Hong Kong but Korea, Taiwan, everywhere, and there are many kind of the rivals. So that is the things they are facing with. So it is very difficult, but maybe the size matters. So in the end, that I think that there is a possibility that we have much more kind of equalize the equity-based diversity inclusive research community. But of course, we need to do it step by step.
Thank you so much. We still have 2 minutes, so I may fit in one more question before we finish. Okay, you mentioned Akiyoshi a few times. You compared Japan with Korea, and you talked about some differences in terms of the global visibility and integration of researchers and research production from Korea and from Japan. Can you tell us a little bit more about these differences from your own perspective, from your observations, and what do you think are the key reasons behind these differences, why these two countries developed these differences?
Okay, so the Korea has advantage and of course disadvantage. That as I mentioned that our Japanese education research community started around 1940s, and then you can easily understand that before the World War II, we already had a very established the research community and the civilization, and within that we can have much more like the stronger the kind of the background of the academic community. And the Korea, you can easily understand that we are kind of guilty that that we colonized there, and then if you are not familiar with, so the only option is to be trained in Japanese or to be trained in English, and then the many the researchers simply face the difficulty of the less opportunity, or the very least opportunity to study in a kind of research to be a researcher. And then within the very, very big efforts that they provided the current position, but mainly through the kind of lots of efforts to study abroad in UK, US especially, and then the still have a very big linkage with the US research community, and that this tendency is very strong even in a human social science area. Of course, they are also doing lots of the efforts to develop their own research community based on their own national language. But so that this is kind of the very good for in the global age, because because more adapted to the kind of global market, like maybe you know the K-pop, for example, right? But this gives a lot of efforts and money and investment. So that is a really, really big pressure for the youngsters of the Koreans. And this is much more than Japan, partly because of the size of the population, but much more for the cultural attitude of the society. So that is a kind of big differences. But we are quite neighbor, and then share the common the culture, so the exchange could be possible. So then maybe we will find some kind of alternative manner by kind of making the kind of regional research community, to mingle the Koreans or the Chinese or Hong Kongese or whatever within for example Asia, but that can be much more open manner to everywhere in the world.
Thank you so much for your engagement, for responding to the questions from the audience, and for your excellent presentation. It was wonderful to have you with us here, and I would like to also thank all the participants for joining in today for our Global Public Seminar in Comparative International Education, and for asking such insightful questions. Our next public seminar will take place on the 22nd of May, and the information is also in the chat if you want to register already. So we will have a speaker from the United States, Professor Gustavo Fishman from Arizona University, will speak about using, misusing, and abusing education research journals. Hope to see many of you there. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye for now, and see you in May. Bye-bye.